Hi friends, welcome back to Complete Medical Coding, a complete CPC learning channel. Today, let's discuss about few more human body structures. Anatomy, part 6. First, let's look into the respiratory system. It consists of nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea and epiglottis. Let's see what are the functions. Nasal cavity is the space inside the nose. It's lined by respiratory epithelium. There are three passages of nasal cavity and these passages are called as meatus. Okay, so there are three passages of nasal cavity: inferior, middle and superior meatus. Inferior meatus is located between the inferior concave and floor of the nasal cavity. Middle meatus located between inferior and middle concave. Superior meatus located between the middle and superior concave. You can just look in the picture of the respiratory system. There you can see the nasal cavity and the nasal concave. There you can find the three different passages, nasal passages. Then it ends up in pharynx. Pharynx is a muscular tube which is a throat in the middle of the neck. Then comes the larynx, the area of the throat containing vocal cords and used for breathing, swallowing and talking. Trachea. Trachea is a long U-shaped tube that connects larynx to the lungs. Trachea is also called as windpipe. Now epiglottis. This is the main important part in the respiratory system. You can expect a question from this. Epiglottis is a small movable lid just above the larynx that prevents food and water from entering the windpipe. That is the main function of epiglottis. You can see in the picture of epiglottis, I had mentioned it there. Closed epiglottis. You can see the epiglottis which is closed, and the food, if once the food is entering, food or water is entering, the epiglottis will be closed so that it prevents the food or water from entering into the windpipe. See, open epiglottis is also mentioned there. Then comes the bronchus. It's a large tube that connects to trachea and directs the air to both the lungs. Bronchus ends up in bronchioles. You can see the second picture. Bronchus ends up in bronchioles, which ends up in alveoli. Bronchioles deliver air to a diffuse network of around 300 million alveoli in the lungs. Alveoli is it's tiny round shape, tiny air sacs at the end of the bronchioles, and this is the place where oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange takes place during the breathe in and breathe out. Okay, it's clearly you can see from the second picture. Then comes the lungs, left and right lungs. It looks similar, but they are asymmetrical. Please check the third picture, right lung and left lung. Why is it asymmetrical? Because of the lobes, number of lobes. Left lung consists of only 2 lobes, left upper lobe and left lower lobe, whereas right lung consists of 3 lobes, right upper lobe, right middle lobe and right lower lobe. You may get questions like RUL, RML, RLL, LUL. That's why I had mentioned that short form in the bracket. So right lung and left lung, it looks similar but different because of the lobes, number of lobes. Then comes the diaphragm. It's located below the lungs and it is a major muscle of respiration. Diaphragm is a major muscle of respiration. You can see in the picture of the first one, respiratory system. The down one is the diaphragm, which ends up the respiratory system. Now let's look into the circulatory system. The major part of circulatory system is the human heart, the heart anatomy. There are 3 types of blood vessels in the heart: arteries, veins and capillaries. Now what are the functions of arteries? This is very important. Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. Means it carries oxygenated blood from the heart to other organs of the body. But except for the pulmonary artery. Except for pulmonary artery, because pulmonary artery is the only artery that carries deoxygenated blood. Okay. So they have thick walls. Arteries are having thick walls, and it is the largest type of blood vessel in the body. Among the three blood vessels, arteries are the largest blood vessel. They are located deep inside the muscle. They have no valves except for the pulmonary artery. Okay. And largest artery is the aorta. Aorta is the largest artery which carries blood from the heart to the organs, all parts of the body. Arteries have smaller branches called as arterioles. Now comes the veins. Veins always carries deoxygenated blood towards the heart and located close to the skin. So veins carry deoxygenated blood from other parts of the body to the heart for the purification. They have thin walls and contains valves to keep the blood moving. Veins are having valves. They are thin walls, but arteries are thick walls, and they doesn't have any valves. Then capillaries. Capillaries transport both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood between the arteries and veins, and it is the smallest blood vessel. So capillaries are the smallest blood vessel. It carries both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood because it is between the arteries and the veins. It transports blood between the arteries and the veins. And it's located inside tissue all over the body, and it also has no valves. And they are thinner than veins. Veins and capillaries are thin, but capillaries are more thinner than veins. It also has no valves, so only veins are having valves. Now, which are the chambers of the heart? There are 4 chambers of the heart: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. You can look into the picture for the chambers of the heart. Right atrium, see on the right chambers, the right atrium and right ventricle, left chambers, left atrium and left ventricle. Now, what are the functions of these chambers? The right atrium receives oxygen poor blood from the body and pumps it to the right ventricle. So, right chambers, the right chambers of the heart always supply oxygen poor blood, deoxygenated blood. Okay. And then the right ventricle pumps the oxygen poor blood to the lungs. Then left chambers, left atrium and left ventricle. Left atrium receives oxygen rich blood from the lungs and pumps to the left ventricle. Left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and it pumps to the left ventricle. Left ventricle then pumps the oxygen rich blood to the body. So these are the 4 chambers of the heart. Now, a few more arteries and veins. Brachiocephalic artery, you can check in the first picture. Brachiocephalic artery and left common carotid artery. These 2 arteries supplies blood to head, neck and upper extremities. Whereas left subclavian artery, it supplies blood to the left arm. Whereas right subclavian artery supplies blood to the right arm. In the picture you can see left and right subclavian artery. So this supplies blood to the left arm and right arm correspondingly. Then comes the superior vena cava. Superior and inferior vena cava. These are the 2 important veins. Inferior vena cava is the largest vein, whereas superior vena cava is the second largest vein. Superior vena cava is the second largest vein that supplies oxygen poor blood, deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body to the right atrium. Whereas inferior vena cava, which is the largest vein, it supplies oxygen depleted blood. It also deoxygenated blood, but oxygen depleted blood. Complete deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body below the diaphragm to the right atrium. So superior vena cava supplies deoxygenated blood from upper part of the body to the right atrium, whereas inferior vena cava supplies oxygen depleted blood, like deoxygenated blood from the lower parts of the body below the diaphragm. That's the lower part of the body. From below the diaphragm, the organs below the diaphragm to the right atrium. Then comes the right pulmonary artery, left pulmonary artery. I already mentioned before that pulmonary artery, except for the pulmonary artery, other arteries carry oxygenated blood. But this pulmonary artery, right and left pulmonary artery, always carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, so right pulmonary artery supplies oxygen poor blood to the right lung, where oxygen enters the bloodstream. And left pulmonary artery supplies oxygen poor blood to the left lung, corresponding left and right lungs. So that the oxygen that we breathe, it will enter into this deoxygenated blood. Then it will go back to the heart, purify and it will create an oxygenated blood supply, which is then pumped to the different parts of the body. Similarly, right pulmonary vein and left pulmonary vein. So all veins except pulmonary veins supply deoxygenated blood. But here, right and left pulmonary vein always supplies oxygen-rich blood. So right pulmonary vein brings oxygen-rich blood from the right lung to the left atrium, whereas left pulmonary vein brings blood from the left lung to the left atrium. So artery always supplies blood to the right atrium, whereas right pulmonary vein, right and left pulmonary vein always supplies blood to the left atrium. Okay, then comes the aorta. Aorta is the main largest artery originating from the left ventricle that supplies blood to all parts of the body. Through aorta, you receive the pure oxygenated blood. Aorta is the through the aortic valve, it supplies all oxygenated blood from the heart to all parts of the body. So aorta is the main largest artery, and it is originating from the left ventricle. Now let's look into the aortic anatomy. Aorta is a cane-shaped artery. Its shape is like kidney-shaped, cane-shaped artery, and it is the largest artery that transports oxygen-rich blood from heart to all parts of the body. Aorta begins at the left ventricle. You can see in the picture of aorta. Aorta begins at the left ventricle. It begins at the left ventricle, extending upwards into chest. See that the red color is the aorta. So it starts from the left ventricle and extends upwards into the chest. It forms an arch then. Okay, forming an arch, and then continues downward into the abdomen, where it branches into iliac arteries above the pelvis. So starts from left ventricle, it forms an arch, extend towards the chest, and then continues downwards into the abdomen, up to the pelvis. So after abdominal aorta, you can see it will extend till the common iliac artery. Okay. What is aortic root? Aortic root is a section that attaches to the heart, the starting point of aorta. Ascending aorta is that upward curve that was mentioned. The upward curve is called as ascending aorta, whereas the downward curve is called as the descending aorta, the curve that runs from chest to abdominal area. What is aortic arch? That curved segment that gives aorta a cane shape. That is the aortic arch. And aortic valve. Through aortic valve, we receive all the oxygenated blood from the heart. So there are three layers of tissue in the aortic valve: inner layer, middle layer, and outer layer. Inner layer is the tunica intima, middle layer tunica media, and outer layer tunica adventitia. Now, there are life-threatening complications that can occur if there is any injury or disease that occurs in aorta, because aorta is the main supply of oxygen. So what are the life-threatening complications that can occur if any injury, if any harm occurs to aorta? Aortic aneurysm, that is the main important point. You can expect questions from aortic aneurysm. Aortic aneurysm, you will get it as short form as AAA, aortic aneurysm. Then hemorrhage means internal bleeding, aortic dissection, kidney failure, and stroke. So these are the complications, life-threatening complications, if any injury happens to aorta. Now let's look into the types of arteries. These are the different types of arteries: aorta, arteries of neck and head, common carotid artery, arteries of the brain, arteries of upper extremity like subclavian, axilla, brachial, radial, ulnar artery. Just you can look in the picture. You can see the different types of arteries. Then what are the arteries of the trunk? The descending aorta, descending aorta, thoracic aorta, abdominal aorta. Common iliac arteries are hypogastric, external iliac artery. What are the arteries of the lower extremity? Means in the legs. The femoral artery, popliteal artery, anterior tibial artery, posterior tibial artery. All these are examples for, all these are types of arteries. Among these, which are the main arteries? Aorta is the largest artery. Then coronary arteries, the pulmonary artery that we had mentioned, that is in the heart. Then carotid arteries. Carotid arteries are found in brain, head, face and neck. Vertebral arteries in the brain and spine. Iliac arteries in the pelvic part. Femoral artery in the legs. Subclavian arteries, head, neck and arms. Celiac and mesenteric arteries in the digestive system. These are the main important arteries. So the types of arteries is, you will just get it from the, you can just look into the picture. Okay. Similarly, let's move on to the types of veins. There are different veins of the heart: coronary sinus, great cardiac vein, small cardiac, middle cardiac, pulmonary vein, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. These are main veins: superior, inferior vena cava. Okay. Then orbital, under superior vena cava you can see orbital, cerebral, veins of upper limb, all this. Inferior vena cava you can see lumbar veins, inferior veins, hepatic veins, renal veins, common iliac vein, veins of lower limbs. Hepatic portal vein is also there. So among these, which are the major veins of the body? Major veins are superior vena cava, which is the second largest vein. Inferior vena cava, which is the largest vein. Superior vena cava brings blood from the upper body to the heart. Inferior vena cava brings blood from the lower body to the heart. We had already discussed it before. Then veins of the upper body, veins of the lower body, and veins in the portal systems. Okay. All these veins, it's mentioned in the picture. Just go through the picture once. Now comes the lymphatic system. It's also a part of the circulatory system. You can check in the picture. Lymphatic system. What our lymphatic system consists of, or it's made up of. Okay. So before that, let's move on to the functions of lymphatic system. What are the functions of lymphatic system? It filters bacteria, foreign materials, toxins and other harmful materials. It drains away excess fluid to prevent water clogging of the tissue and cells. Transports proteins back into the blood supply. Produces lymphocytes which protect the body against infection. Produces antibodies to fight bacteria. Absorbs fat from the intestine and transport it to the liver. There are 6 major lymphatic organs. What are the 6 lymphatic organs? Tonsils, thymus, spleen, bone marrow, lymph vessels and lymph nodes. Tonsils. They are the lymph nodes in the back of the mouth and top of the throat and helps to filter bacteria and prevent infection. Tonsils, it's found in the back of the mouth and top of the throat, and it helps to filter bacteria and it helps to prevent infection. Then bone marrow. Bone marrow is a spongy substance that is found in the center of the bones. It's also called as cancellous. Bone marrow is also named as cancellous. And it manufactures stem cells, which in turn produce blood cells. Lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are the small bean-shaped tissues that act as filters. You can see in the picture, all lymph nodes are small bean-shaped tissues and it acts as a filter. There are different lymph nodes as mentioned in the picture: cervical lymph nodes, lymph nodes of mammary gland, lumbar lymph nodes, pelvic lymph nodes, axillary lymph nodes of upper limb, inguinal lymph nodes, then lymph nodes of the lower limb. Lower limb lymph nodes, lymphatics or lymph nodes are called as popliteal lymph nodes. Okay, lower limb lymph nodes are called as popliteal lymph nodes. Now, thymus. Thymus is a primary lymphoid organ of the immune system. Primary lymphoid organ is thymus. And it's located inside the rib cage just behind the breastbone. You can see the location of the thymus in yellow color. It's located inside the rib cage just behind the breastbone, and it produces T lymphocytes. Thymus is the one that produces T lymphocytes. Lymph vessels. Which are the lymph vessels? Lymph vessels are a thin tube that carries lymph and white blood cells. Lymph vessels are the vessels or the tube that carries white blood cells, lymph and other white blood cells. Then spleen. Spleen is found in the abdominal cavity behind the stomach. You can see the picture of spleen, and it is the largest lymphatic organ. That's important. Spleen is which is the largest lymphatic organ in human body? Spleen. Spleen is the largest lymphatic organ in the human body, and it's located in the abdominal cavity behind the stomach. So these are the parts of the lymphatic system. So friends, that's all for circulatory system and respiratory system. Let's move on to other body systems in the upcoming sessions. So thank you so much. If you like the video, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Bye. Take care.